I'm actually more excited about the NBA stuff than football.
It was fun because it's like, you know, if it's a little bit down, there's no football. It's also like, you know, you're still on the Thunder, you get my brain distracted. But I think they said, isn't Luka's first game isn't going to be until the day after the Super Bowl?
I know the Spurs are playing the Hawks tonight. I hope Fox plays.
Yeah, I think that's underrated. Pretty nice trade. Like, I mean, underrated.
Absolutely.
Like, nobody's talking about it, understandably, because there's so much from the Luka. But I feel like that one went just under the radar in the news. And like, I think it was just a couple years ago. Fox was considered like really, really good when he was with the Warriors. They went to 7, and he broke his. What do you think he broke his pinky or something?
Hand.
Yeah, he broke. It was left hand, right? Because they were in control of that series. They looked like a good win, and then he broke his hand. They kind of fell apart a little bit. And that time you're like, oh, the Kings looking good. This Kings team looks like this up on the run. And last year's more pullbacks.
Plus, he's a guy who's forcing his way to pair with Wemby, and that's why I don't understand why the Kings were getting ridiculed. Their lineup's pretty solid. Yeah, they're pretty much the Bulls. Instead of Vucevic, they have Sabonis, but like they have Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis. Their bench sucks. But like, I mean, they're built for the future in some way. Those are young guys. LaVine's the best he's ever played. DeMar's not that old.
You could almost argue this could be a win-win trade. I feel like those don't always happen because even though I think Fox is the better player and the Spurs won the trade to me. I feel like for the Kings, you feel like Monk is better at point guard, where you kind of have the same player a little bit.
Absolutely.
So they felt like they had to get rid of one because like, okay, what are we doing with these two guys that are playing together?
They didn't have to. He was I need to go.
Okay, it's not a terrible loss for them. It's that, you know, I mean, because they do have Monk. If they had like, oh my God, now their point guard is, you know, I don't know, some random backup guys like Alex Caruso or something. They're like, okay, now you'd be screwed. But they do have Monk, so it's like not a huge step down for them. So I feel like they were able to kind of do pretty good, all things being equal, for a guy that had to be traded. You know, sometimes you get bent over a barrel.
Absolutely, exactly. Like, sure, Fox left, but they're still left with a solid team. You know, if you have an NBA 2K lineup, like I'll take that team. They may not be my first pick, but they're up there. I mean, when you break it down, like I was looking at the power rankings that ESPN has: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They have them 12th in the West. 12th in the West. Now the West is super deep. I mean, the Spurs are only 10th in the West right now, but this team's still really good. The West is really good right now.
No, the Spurs are 12th in the West.
Standings wise. That's what you're saying, right? Yeah, I was just looking at the power rankings.
But yeah,
post-trade power
because the West is so deep.
So deep.
That the Spurs might not even make the play, and I think they will, but it's on the board that they don't. They're
I could see that.
Right now. 2 games out in the lost columns, and that's nothing. There's a lot to play for, but I'm saying it's on the board that they could miss the play, in, not just the playoffs. And I mean, that just shows you the level of depth.
I'm excited for the season, man. I mean, thank God too, because like if there's anything, look, I wish the NBA would move their trade deadline so we could have like full time to fully delve into this. But I just kept catching myself like being way more interested in what's going to happen with all these teams. And even if it's not like a smart move for the Mavericks to get Anthony Davis and give away Luka Doncic, who's a generational player, they still have a solid team. And even if De'Aaron Fox was like, I need to go out and I specifically want to play with Wemby, and somehow they made that work, they still have a solid team. If you actually break it down, like they have the Lakers 5th in the West. They have the Mavs 8th in the West in terms of power rankings. In terms of, the Mavericks are 1 game out of the play-in behind the Warriors. Like you were saying with the Kings, they're barely in the play-in right now. The Spurs are 3 games out of the play-in. These are still fun teams. Yeah. I mean, there's probably like just a handful of teams, maybe 6 teams that I'm like, NBA League Pass, unwatchable. Sadly, your Nets are one of them, but like, hey.
It's very true.
Tank away. Give it.
Hold on. You want to officially start this? Have we started here officially?
Yeah, we're ripping.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're recording now.
Yeah, we're in.
No, I mean, the East as a whole is a little less watchable. Let's just call it.
Of course, yeah.
You said there's like, your 6 to 8 teams that are not great, and it's like I'd say 6 of those teams are in the East. Then you got like the Jazz and New Orleans in the West. But yeah,
I
it's
mean,
interesting.
only 4, I think. Nets, Raptors, Hornets, Wizards in terms of unwatchable. But even the Wizards, they just traded away Kuzma today, and they got Chris Middleton. And they're young, but they still have Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly and Keshawn George. And their 2 best players are on the bench, which they'll probably get rid of, and Brogdon and Valanciunas. So they got something to work with, and that's typically not a team that we're looking to watch.
So
They've been bottom of the barrel for so many years.
It seems like a long time.
So long.
I mean, at least if you live in Washington, you got the Commanders now. But in all seriousness, I'm going to dive into the Luka trade here.
So break it down. We were playing Top Golf. You went home with your wife. Yeah. Break it down. When did you find out?
I did not find out till the next morning. The trade comes at 1 a.m. East Coast time. So I think the most
fast asleep.
Just about everybody on the East Coast is asleep except for the real degenerates. And even some West Coast people that are early to bed, they might be asleep too.
Sure.
The trade just makes no sense at all for Dallas. I'm sorry. I don't want to be the guy that's the same as everybody else, and everybody's saying it's like, oh, I want to have a different opinion. I try to look at this differently, but you just mentioned the record. Dallas is not even in the play-in right now, and they said they traded this for win now. You cannot tell me that Anthony Davis is going to take you from the 11 seed, which is where they are now, to a championship team. Like, the gap is too big. If they were the 4 seed, and you're doing it without Luka, I understand the 11 seed because Luka's been injured since Christmas, and you're saying, okay, can Anthony Davis raise us the gap between the 4 seed and the 1 seed? But you're asking him to raise you the gap between the 11 seed and the 1 seed. So to me, they have no chance of contending for a championship. They'll be a better team. They should make the playoffs because they will be much better and they'll be better on defense. I don't see how they could possibly compete with the championship. And even Dallas basically is openly kind of saying this is a win now trade. That's the words you're using. We want a defensive team to win now. So if it's not the future and it's now, but you can't win now, then it's a failure. That's what it is. It's nothing. It's a miserable trade. The more you look at it, you kind of feel like there was something extra there. I don't want to be Mr. Conspiracy Theory, but it seems like there was pissed at Luka.
Absolutely.
A couple things came out that you just found interesting of the thing. They said Luka had just bought a $15 million house 10 days before the trade. Less than 10 days, sorry. I think it was 9 days before. And it's like, I understand if you things could leak, but you can't even whisper some type of rumors. We might consider 1% trading you before you buy that. And everybody's going to say, oh, he's so super rich. I understand he's worth millions, but he hasn't gotten a super big payday he's going to get yet. And so $15 million is still a lot of money.
It matters how you treat your players.
Absolutely.
And we're in the player empowerment era, and then something like this happens. Never in the history of our league have we ever had a superstar like this, a super duper star, a top 25 all-time player get traded. And it was a surprise. These players are demanding trades. Jimmy Butler has been demanding trades. Like, I need to go to Phoenix. And who knows if that's going to happen? Who knows if Kevin Durant's going to go back to the Warriors? But even De'Aaron Fox is like, I want to push my way to the Spurs. And meanwhile, Luka Doncic, 25 years old, is like, I am putting my, I'm looking to buy a home right now. And I'm looking to buy a home because I'm finally settled in my life. Been with my girlfriend for about a year and a half, going on 2 years. I feel really comfortable living on Long Island. He felt that way with the Mavericks. He felt that way with Dallas. He's like, bro, we just lost the finals. We missed the playoffs twice in my career. We lost in the first round twice in my career. We lost in the Western Conference Finals once. And then last year we lost to the Celtics, who were pretty much unbeatable. And they beat really good teams. They beat the Clippers, Thunder, and Timberwolves.
You mentioned the Thunder. Thunder are definitely the best team in the West. You can make the argument for best in the NBA. I'd still give Boston it just for the fact that defending champion. But Thunder's right there. They beat them last year. They match up well against them. So if you get into playoffs, it could happen. Remember last year they were a 5 seed that beat the 1 seed Thunder. So you could be a better team if you get in. And prior to Luka being injured, he gets injured Christmas Day, they were 19-11. So they're doing well. They're well above 500, about a 60% winning percentage. They're doing well. if you just take their winning percentage and project it out, I understand that they've lost a bunch since he's been injured. They've been 7-14 since injury.
Uh-huh.
But let's see, 60% winning percentage. What's that put them? That's the equivalent of the 5 seed today. So what I'm saying is, with Luka, they're easily equivalent to a 5 seed. You get in. That's what they were when they beat Oklahoma last year. All they have to do is figure out a way to get in the playoffs. They're the 11 seed. They're hanging on. He comes back, and you don't know. You could be the most dangerous 8 seed ever. What if it's one of those magical years where the 8 seed upsets the 1 seed? You think Oklahoma would have wanted to play Dallas that beat them last year in the playoffs as the 1 seed versus the 8 seed? That would have been an excellent matchup for Dallas. They get Oklahoma. They're feeling the swagger, the confidence. We beat you last year. Oklahoma maybe feeling a little tight because you lost the team last year. All the pressure on the 1 seed. 8 seed, no pressure at all. Luka missed some games. It's a free pass. No matter what happens for Dallas, that was going to be a free pass year because of the injury. Now instead, Dallas has heaps and heaps of pressure because if they're amazing, it's going to be why'd you trade Luka? And honestly, I can't even say amazing. They have to win the championship because they were there last year. It was just 1 year before, the 1 year they missed the playoff. They get Kyrie, and that year they missed the playoffs, and they kind of collapsed in the end. If the trade happens, if the trade happens in that offseason, still terrible trade. But you can project and say, well, Luka was never going to work with Kyrie. We just missed the playoff. We need to shake the snow globe. You could do that. But now we have the proof of concept. Oh no, Luka and Kyrie works. They just made it to the finals,
and they love each other.
And the same,
Kyrie was so
pissed. It's the old defense. After they had traded midseason and got Gaffer last year, and they're lively, they entered the finals last year as the number 8 defense, actually. They actually had a good defense. Yeah, Luka's bad on defense individually, but the team was plenty fine. Don't tell me, we need Anthony Davis. Defense was plenty fine enough. It doesn't make sense on any way. And they screwed him on the Supermax deal. I know he's going to get his money, but reread the numbers. He's going to miss 100. It's going from 5 years, 345 to 5 years, 229. And it's not like it's a different year, 4 years, 5 years, same amount of years. It's just money that's taken away from you. $116 million. You meant your player empowerment. Other players are watching that thinking, I don't want to do that. I don't want that.
I don't want to go to Dallas after this. This is how you treat your superstars.
And they could have easily traded him in this offseason. If for whatever reason they didn't want to get rid of him, which is crazy, but you make this crazy argument, he's got to go. You sign him to the Supermax and then you trade him, so at least he gets his money. It's a sign and trade. And if it's a sign and trade, you actually have better trade options because he's locked in contract. Because they traded him now to the Lakers this year, there were teams that, let's pick a random team, say Atlanta. They say, well, what if he doesn't resign with us? Because we don't know if he wants to stay in Atlanta. So they actually took teams off the trading table because they had to trade him to a team that they knew he would resign with. Forget about them resigning the team. He would resign with. So they lost that aspect of it.
They didn't call anybody else. All they wanted was Anthony Davis. New owner syndrome to the max. Jason Kidd was trying to compose himself in the press conference.
Exactly.
He's like,
you were shocked. The coach is like, Chuck, even the owner, you say new owner syndrome. It's the GM there. Because even the owner was at first, he was confused, like, okay, basically, like, if you say so to the GM there, because this was all the GM. And they're like,
no. It's clearly come out that it came straight from the owner. The GM just had to deliver message. He wanted Anthony Davis. So it had to be something to do with Luka in regards to his health. And like Ron Russillo had this line where he's like, he could be chain smoking cigarettes, dribbling the ball up the court, and I would still never trade this guy.
Exactly.
Like that's
I don't
so
care
true.
Chain smoking, I don't care if he had actual lung cancer, God forbid, knock on wood. I say, listen, he's terminal, but we got 2 years of Luka, I'll take it.
It's like, he weighs 270 pounds. I'm like, the guy needs big body. He uses his body unlike anybody else.
Exactly. He's not a big boy body.
He's not De'Aaron Fox. He's not jetting up the course. And they don't have a team built around that.
Yeah.
Outside of Kyrie, their best player is Gafford.
This is not a 40-inch vertical guy. Like, he doesn't need to jump that high.
He's so slow. And Jokic is the best player in the game. He doesn't play fast.
Right? He can barely jump over a max box. I mean, it's not all about your weight. And Jokic, similar body, kind of has that, I don't want to almost insulting. It's like a dopey body, I call it, whatever,
They're professional athletes. The Miami Heat measure body fat. Like, it's okay. Like, yeah, maybe the Mavericks want to like get a little bit more like lean in regards to all that. But like, you're trading for a guy who's 6 years older and hasn't played 70 games since, he played last year. He played 76 games last year. But since then, 2018 was the last time he played 70. This guy doesn't play. played 56, 40, 36, 62, 56 in those prior years. He's never healthy. So you're worried about this other guy at giving him the supermax and him being healthy. You're barely under the luxury tax. Oh, good for you. Congratulations. But you trade away one of the greatest players of all time
Who's your
for a
second
man
best
who's
player?
fragile. Kyrie.
Okay, he's older too. I believe he's also 32, which means the Mavs are looking down the barrel in about
Win
3
now.
years. In about 3 years, they're going to be garbage, like hot garbage in about 3 years. And they got that one first-round pick, which is going to be a bad first-round pick. It's not going to be a good first-round pick, most likely. But in 3 years' time or so, they're going to be bad because Anthony Davis and Kyrie are going to age basically at the same time, both injury-prone. So they're going to age quicker. So maybe the average player, you can get 37 years. By 35, I think they're going to be in trouble because of the injury history. And they're going to be bad. So you know what? You take that luxury tax, and you're thinking short term, I have to pay the luxury tax. Some people are saying the owner said he didn't want to pay it. But the revenue you lost, the revenue you're going to make off Luka, even if you never won a championship with him, if you were, the Atlanta Braves of basketball, if you're making deep playoff runs every year, you're selling out the arena. You have a massive amount of jersey sales. You have merchandise sale inside the arena, from pretzels, beers, to everything between. You have the TV ratings that are higher. You might get a bigger TV contract from your local cable company. That's all obscene amount of money that we don't really see. That's not part of the game. We consider part of the game. And now we're talking about the owner. There's a lot of extra money there. And Luka's international, which actually is worth more money because you have international money. And remember when Yao Ming started the All-Star game like 10 years in a row because he got all those votes? You saw that in like the first 48 hours, the Davik Mavericks social media lost 100,000 followers because they have a massive international brand. So basically everybody from the Baltic countries and most of Europe basically said, I don't care anymore.
That's
the
this
way
team.
that we might follow, one great player, we might follow our best soccer player over in Europe. Like, oh, well, screw this. I don't want to watch this anymore.
Exactly. That's
so
what little
much
kids do
opportunity
now.
gone.
All these little kids that were Luka fans are now Lakers fans.
Exactly.
And they're not Lakers fans because of LeBron. They're Lakers fans because of Luka.
And you know what?
This guy's going to be fired up. You want a guy to be motivated to lose a little bit of weight, breakups, and this is the biggest breakup of all time. It's like, oh, I just bought a $15 million house for this girl. I know this girl happens to be like his career, but like that's kind of how they think of this. Like they put all their money into this basket. This is their whole life right now.
They can't be right now because even if they knew, if they could see the future and they said, oh, Luka's going to gain another 50 pounds. Now the likelihood of that is so much lower because of the motivation you mentioned. So they're more likely to lose weight, and that will make Dallas look worse because they basically gave him the reason to lose weight. If you want to blame weight, but I don't care about the weight. I'm just saying if that's their thing, it's less likely now to going to happen. And they'll be like, no, I swear he was eating so hard terribly, and he's going to be over in LA, home of the avocado, just sitting there eating salads every day. And LeBron's going to be like, hey, come to my hyperbolic timeshare over here. I'm going to get you in shape. And they're going to be like, what the hell? Where did this guy come from? Luka turns into Arnold Schwarzenegger suddenly overnight. And be like, how did this happen? He wasn't like
He's moving to LA, which LA is almost guaranteed you're going to try to look better at least. You're constantly outside sweating. I mean, look, in Dallas, it's a little bit hotter. But like LA is like known for just being out and about.
Just healthy foods.
Yeah. You're also with like one of the greatest personal trainers of all time, LeBron James, and it's never hurt, even though he plays 1,000 more minutes than everybody else. He's 40 years old, still almost at the peak of his career. He's still one of the best players in the game.
What to do.
Everything. And he plays in a similar way. He thinks about the game in a similar way. Like, especially right now, LeBron's not really using his brute force to win. He's just using his spacing and his brain to create openings. And I mean, it's great for LeBron's legacy in regards to instead of having to rely on Austin Reeves to be the playmaker, now Luka Doncic is the playmaker. And LeBron could still, come in when he wants. But this team might not be deep, but they're definitely, once they get rid of Jackson Hayes or at least replace him with like a decent center,
they just get something.
Could do something special.
Ironically, they get a trade like Dallas made last year when they got Gafford. If they just pick up that, middle of the road center that another team is kind of not using so much, and that could be the difference that could really push them over the edge. So, yeah, we'll take a second to focus on the Lakers because we've just been talking about Dallas. What do you see for the rest of the season for the Lakers? Give me their ceiling, and also just give me the season and the playoffs separately, like the season games and then the playoffs, what you think for them.
They're outplaying their projection right now. They're in 5th place in the West. And the teams ahead of them, look, you have Denver and OKC who are clear like 2 of the best teams in the league. But like, look, I do love Memphis and specifically Houston, but these are young teams. When it comes to the playoffs, I'm not scared of them.
Yeah.
I think worst case scenario, Western Conference Finals loss.
Okay.
And
And
second round loss is definitely probable, but like I I have full faith in this. Like LeBron's gonna figure it out. He doesn't have many more years left. He's gonna they may like drop a little bit, maybe to like 7th for a little while, but as long as, Luka's gonna, turn it up a notch, I can't even imagine. He's literally like the second, third best player right now in the league. He could easily be the best player right now. And now he's 20 years old. The Lakers got another superstar handed to them for the next decade.
yeah, I mean, the Lakers, if you're not a Laker fan, it's laughable. It's like, great, the Lakers got another top 10 player all time, basically.
It's the
Not,
KC Chiefs with the
feels
refs
like
type of
it
thing.
feels honestly like, come on, how did
Like,
this
get out
happen?
of here.
But I mean, this would be like Kansas City if they had gotten Zaquan or something, or if, this is them if Miles Garrett on the trade block. This would be like if Miles Garrett said, you know what, I want to be
Exactly.
traded to
I'll
the
go
Chiefs.
to KC. Oh my God.
It's like, it's the Chiefs if they pick up one of the best players in the game. You're like, oh, well, how'd that happen? So like that from a non-Laker fan, I've never been a big Laker fan with East Coast here. I'm like, oh, great. Now we get to watch the Lakers dominate again for another decade. Seems
Totally,
unfair. But this could extend LeBron's career because he can now, people are saying, how is he going to play off the ball? And I think there'll be some gel time. You remember, big Heat fan, the first year they had LeBron away, first 20 games out of the gate, they were under 500. I think 20 games in roughly or something like that. They're like 9-11. Like, they're not looking great. Takes a little while. So I think there's going to be, sure, the first probably month of regular season, I think there's going to be some bumpy roads. But LeBron now finally has a ball dominant player, which means he can play a little saved energy. He doesn't have to dribble the ball off the clock as much. You mentioned to go to Austin Reeves just so he could do less of that. He could actually save a little bit. And actually, I think this could extend his career. Because if I'm LeBron now, knowing how good Luka is, and it's not going anywhere, like LeBron a week ago, he's thinking Anthony Davis is getting older. I have to help more. Now I could actually step back, lower my minutes a little bit, maybe take a night off. He won't because that's not his mental mentality. He's all in it, unlike these modern players. But you could play a little less kind of and say, hey, why not? Maybe I'll stay around for 3 years because I don't have to be the dominant player. I mean, he always said he wanted to kind of retire, or he implied that he'd retire with his abilities at all-star abilities, basically. But we know a lot of players that played until they're, bench players. With Luka being the true star of the team, he could come back on like a veteran minimum and be like, you know what? I'll play 20 minutes off the bench and be here for another 5 years if he wanted to. He could literally, I think he could play at 50 and probably average, 9 points off the bench playing 15 minutes a game at 50 years old. Be like, oh, well, you know what? I'm basically like a player coach. I have so much wisdom, like Vince Carter in the final year. He could do that easy because the Lakers would still be great. They wouldn't be the LeBron show. They're going to be the Luka show. So the spotlight even comes off him. And the people are going to want to play with Luka, I think. I think that, a lot of players are going to want it. The Lakers are going to be the number one spot for those expiring contracts. People, getting cut toward the end of the season, be like, oh, send me to the Lakers. Signing, people are getting bought out of their contracts and traded with the last year of bad contract. Like, send me to the Lakers. Send me to the Lakers.
You know who wants to play with Luka Doncic? Klay Thompson.
Yeah, not anymore.
Exactly. Now, a man who's known, I mean, look, he's not as good as he used to be. We all know that. But he's known for being a great 3-point specialist. And now he has Anthony Davis, who's excited, super excited, because he's got Derek Lively and Gafford as centers. So he's like, even though this man's 6'11", 7'6" wingspan, demands to play the power forward position, demands to play the 4 spot. So he's excited so he could get out there on the 3-point line. But Klay Thompson's like, come on, man, this is my position. This is what I need to do. Like, you're huge. Get up in there. Like, LeBron was trying to push him, to be a little bit more physical. Like, they need a center so bad. I'm sure LeBron's like a little upset, but as he said in the post-game press conferences, he's like, look, I wasn't expecting this, but if I was pissed off about this, I could easily just demand a trade and get out of here. But who would want to get rid of, get off Luka Doncic's team? And, especially since the Lakers did everything they could to give their son a contract and they just gave LeBron an extension. I mean, I think this team's, the Lakers, going to be great. I think the Mavericks are super dumb for doing this, but clearly it was an owner-powered position. The Mark Cuban wasn't involved. The players didn't know what was going on. Obviously, we spoke about the Supermax deal, but they're still a pretty solid team. And obviously a team that just lost the NBA Finals, losing and trading away one of the best players in the game. They should still have a solid roster. The roster even maybe potentially makes more sense now, but I don't know. The West, I don't really even know what to predict. I know the Thunder are going to be pretty solid, but they still don't have Chet. And the Nuggets haven't really been clicking like they used to. And Murray is the key piece to that. Jamal Murray has not been consistent. We spoke about the Grizzlies and the Rockets being two young teams that are just not reliable when it comes to the playoffs. I am starting to believe in the Clippers, but that relies on Harden's playoff ability. That relies on Kawhi's health. So that's really tough. And the Suns are a dumpster fire right now. Speaking of new owner, Sid Drum with the whole Bradley Beal deal, giving him a no trade clause too. It's wild with these owners too.
It's crazy. I mean, the West, it definitely feels like the West is the most open it's been in, feels like forever, longer than I can remember. OKC is definitely the best team, but, you still don't know. They should be better when Chet comes back, but could there be a little bit of time to have to re-gel? Because now they've been playing for so long without him that they're going to have to rework him in the lineup. That being said, I think they should be better, and they should be the clear favorites just because the rest of the West seems to have pulled back a little bit. You look at last year, they were the number one seed, and we just mentioned how Luka upset them. Now they don't have to worry about Dallas anymore. To me, they don't have to. You could make the argument, Anthony Davis, whatever. I don't think they have to worry about them. Denver looks like they pulled back from where they were a couple years ago with being world champions. Minnesota took a big step back trading Cat. That was a terrible trade for them. So you look at the West as a whole, Memphis is like the 2 seed, but nobody really, I think, has faith they could win a championship. I feel like it really feels like it's OKC's year to at least get there. As fun as the Lakers are, we mentioned Luka beating OKC. Luka and the Lakers, I don't think they could beat OKC. We'll have to see. Maybe they could pull off a good trade at the end for a center. But right now, this current roster today with Jackson Hayes at center, I don't think they could beat OKC. I feel like OKC's got the cleanest path to the finals of anybody. If they don't make the finals, it's a big, honestly, upside. To me, it's a big disappointment. It's like, it's finals or bust for them. They have to make the finals.
Yeah,
the road is super clear.
They're basically the same team. They're built as like a well-oiled organization too. And I was looking back trying to figure out when was the last time I was shocked by a trade? And it was the SGA trade when the Clippers gave up SGA to OKC. But we didn't really even know what SGA was at that point. I'm a huge NBA fan. It's easily my favorite sport. So I was hyped about this guy, but he wasn't a Luka level, not even close.
And on the other hand, you knew that
kind of close.
Paul George really wanted to go to LA, so there was if you want to say rumblings, so you knew there was at least part of this trade in part of not that trade particularly, but part of something going on there. This is it's hard to think of anything. I mean, you can definitely make the argument that this is the most shocking trade in NBA history.
Like you said, if Kyrie had issues with him and for some reason they wanted to pick Kyrie over Luka, that's kind of understandable. That's kind of what happened with Shaq and Kobe, where Shaq went to Miami and then had to wait for Dwayne Wade to get healthy. And then in 2006, they won the championship. I know it's a pretty top-heavy team, but LeBron and Luka, specifically those two players, they're used to carrying garbage. They're going to be totally fine. I'm really excited to see what this Mavs team looks like. I think Jason Kidd's a wonderful coach, and they got potential, but they're win now. They're pretty old. They're not like a young and gunning team. Which is why I don't think they're going to play fast. They're going to play a Luka Doncic type of style. Logically, this doesn't make too much sense. It's just insane. I've never been so shocked by a deal.
I mean, it's still very much on the board. You definitely you hope not, but it's on the board with Anthony Davis. He could easily get injured. So we could see 10 games later
easily.
Yeah, that would be the ultimate irony. Would be what if 10 games from now Davis was injured just last week? What if 10 games from now he gets an injury and oh, Anthony Davis is injured? You're oh, well, now we have nobody. And they should be a better team, but it's not impossible. And I know I'll get pushed back for this.
Better than the Lakers.
It's not impossible.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say, and I could get pushed back. It's not impossible if things don't go their way, an injury here or there. I'm not even saying a big injury, out for a couple weeks. You mentioned how tough the West is. They could miss the playoffs.
Oh, sure. They're right out of the playoffs right now.
They're out of it now. So they have to make a run to get in. And if you're talking the 6 seed cutoff line, now they're much farther back. It's not even guaranteed they can make the playoffs.
If the Warriors get KD?
It's changing fast. And NBA changes very fast. So
we're not even talking about the Timberwolves anymore, who were just in the Western Conference Finals.
yeah, I mean they
they traded away Karl Anthony Towns, but still was an awful trade, I think.
It's such a traffic jam there. Makes me feel again why OKC has to be such heavy favorites, because you look at go back to the 12 seed, the Spurs. They got 26 losses. The 6 seed, which is now above the play-in line, so you're safe, has 22 losses. So it's only a 4-loss difference between 6 and 12. Between not even worrying about the play-in and being so far out, you're not even in the play-in because it's so passed up. Meanwhile, the Thunder, though, they have 9 losses. And Memphis has 16. So they have 7 losses, almost double the gap. 7 compared to 4 losses, but just between the 1 seed and the 2 seed. Like, they're so far ahead that they're like the only true team that can really kind of wipe their brow and say, we don't have to worry about anything. We're guaranteed in the playoffs. Like, even teams that are like 4 and 5 seeds, like, if we go on a bad losing streak, we lose 5 games in a row, and we're out of the playoffs. They're the only team that could literally lose 5 games in a row. They're still the number 1 seed. Like, so that's a big advantage for them because it allows you to do something like maybe Chet could come back today and they say, hey, you know what? Take another 2 weeks. We don't need you. You can start resting. They could start talking about resting players down the stretch.
He hasn't played at all. And they have a 13-point point differential. And while you said the rest of those teams, like it's 0.5, like literally like 3 points positive to -2. Like there's no difference between these teams from 5th to 12th.
Yeah. Think about that.
No difference.
If the Thunder lost 7 games, they would be tied just for the 2 seed. So they'd still be tied for number 1. If any other team lost 7 games, they would be either in the play-in or out of the playoffs. And that includes even number 2. Even Memphis, if they lost 7 games, they'd be in the play-in. And any other team past Memphis, if they lost 7, they'd be out of the playoffs at the 11th seed. So that gives you an idea of like the cushion they have. So that goes back to me saying the Thunder have to be heavy favorites to get to the finals. I'm not talking about winning the finals, but to get there because they have such a big lead at this point.
Plus, they got Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein in the offseason, 2 of my favorite offseason deals. And then all of a sudden the Cat trade happened. I was like, oh, great, this player that I hate, who, I hate because he has such great talent. And I feel like he kind of just does a lot of stupid fouls and gets into a lot of issues. But he has taken that momentum of getting traded, of going to a new city, being around a grit and grind type of Tom Thibodeau, Josh Hart, exactly, coaching, and the rest of the players buy into it. And he's like, I'm not going to be the guy out. Like, I want to be the leader of this team, even though Brunson still is. Cat demands that attention. And hopefully, we get to see Anthony Davis do this. And good for him. Now he's a power forward officially.
You know what? Good for the NBA because you know what? Dallas's loss is everybody's game because, like, I feel like we were just talking last time. We briefly touched on the NBA's ratings are down 53% over the last 10 years. Like, the NBA needed something. You had Adam Silver on TV talking about rule changes. He mentions they consider a 40-minute game instead of 48. Not mid-season, what things he's talking about the future. And it's like, this is the most life I've seen pumped into the NBA in what feels like a couple of years, honestly, since probably LeBron being traded to LA, but not going to LA. Like, it feels like something I'm like, you mentioned, I wish this didn't happen during Super Bowl week, where I was like, the NBA is just not really hitting me as hard as it used to. I'm like, oh, right, wow, I'm excited. I want to watch some basketball now. Suddenly I'm like, what, football? I want to watch basketball. I'm excited for basketball. This, even though it's only one team, but just the whole vibe feels like, okay, this is fun. This is what I want to watch. So the NBA
not
needed
just
this
one team
so much.
That De'Aaron Fox deal that we started the podcast with, that was going to be the monster deal. That was going to be the fun. Oh, let's see what it's like to see, CP3 off the bench and Fox with Wemby. Wemby's already instant box office. A man that gets 5 blocks every single night, the best defensive player in the game, a guy who is already one of the best in the game. He's already instant box office. And now you have one of the fastest guys, a super mature young man with De'Aaron Fox, like co-piloting with him. And then even the Kings, like from like more of the nerdy sports perspective, like the Kings are like, okay, let's see what this team's doing. I never know what the Kings are going to do in terms of their organization. Who knows what Sacramento's actually building here, but their team's fun. There's a lot of teams, like you're saying, NBA fans are winning. There's a lot of teams that I'm like extra interested in. Like I've already seen the AD LeBron, even though I try not to get like bored with it or take it for granted. I kind of know what LeBron's going to do. But now seeing Luka on this team, that's must watch.
Sure. Even though we were ripping Dallas this entire time, I'll be curious. Be like, well, I kind of want to watch Dallas and just see, kind of watch this this car crash, so to say, see how it goes down. So, and you mentioned that the Knicks being great for the first time in a while. Last year they had a great season, but like the NBA needs the Knicks to be a good team. And the fact that people are like, you know what, they could actually win the championship. Like last year they were a really good team. Now we're saying, wait, could they win it? Maybe.
Exactly.
It's in, they're in the bubble, like the championship bubble, if you will. Normally it's like 4 to 6 teams that could really truly win it. Like, okay, you start dropping teams, the Knicks, where would you rank them? I'd probably put them as my 4th best odds to win the whole thing.
The whole thing? Yeah,
to win the
top
whole thing.
4.
The top 4, maybe top 3, honestly.
Cold take, I'd pick them over the Cavs. I know the Cavs are doing great right now. Knicks are going to beat them in the playoffs. Celtics,
I agree.
Still afraid of this team. You know, I thought that would be something we were going to talk about right after the Super Bowl, and I'm sure we will. The Cavs are really good this year, and they have a new coach in Kenny Atkinson. But when it comes to the playoffs, I don't know if I can trust Donovan Mitchell yet. Exactly. Knicks beat them last year. Now they're Karl Anthony Towns, and they're a really fun watch. Like, even though I'm a Miami Heat fan, I still love the Knicks. It doesn't make sense to most people, but I don't care about them. I love the Knicks. Always have. I just haven't rooted for or connected with how they're building their team. They're finally building a team that's fun to watch, makes sense. Like, they're one of my favorite teams to watch.
Yeah, I felt like I really started to fall in love with them last year, but people call them the Nova Knicks. I remember watching like March Madness and kind of getting into that, and it's just great for basketball. It's fun to watch. I would say, yeah, I agree with you. They beat the Cavs last year when the Cavs had the better record. So record's not everything. They're a better team now themselves. Even though I know the Cavs, you would say, are a better team than last year's Cavs. I put them over the Cavs. I actually, now that I thought about it for a second and let it digest, I can't even say top 4. I'd say top 3. I put the Knicks 3rd. Behind the Celtics and the Thunder for chances to win the championship. I'd say they're 3rd.
I still got the Nuggets over them. Jokic is just that good, and the Lakers thing's 2-0, and the Knicks are the Knicks. Karl Anthony Towns is still that kind of guy that I don't know. I don't know if I could put him ahead of Jokic right now in regards to players I trust. You know, Jokic is going to beat him, and he could easily foul out, and then they got to rely on Brunson, and if Jamal Murray is actually cooking, he could take advantage of that.
It's true. Maybe there's a little bit of homer in me for the Knicks. And I'm a Nets fan. I'm supposed to hate the Knicks, but just like you with Miami, it's like I can't hate the Knicks. I know a lot of people. It's like it's not my team. Like, nah, there's something about the Garden.
It's New York, baby.
You know,
there's nothing better.
Going, it's just something about it different. You hear that the rim, the basketball, everything just feels a little different. MSG just feels a little different.
The music does sound different. It's almost
like
that's drinking music. Like a Coca-Cola out of McDonald's. From what I hear, I'm not a big soda guy, but like they say, like McDonald's has that like secret bag or secret sauce, basically, and it like tastes better because Coca-Cola gives them that like proprietary information. Yeah. There's something about Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, to this day,
it's so special.
Last week, LeBron comes in and puts up an amazing game to get triple double, and it's like because like LeBron to this day, he's pushing 40. Is like when he plays in the Garden, there's something a little different that he adds a little bit extra. Like a lot of and he's not the only one. There's a lot of players that to this day they pull out a little extra because they're playing in the Garden. They just care a little more. The visiting team comes in there and it just means more to them. You know, we talk about like people do load management, which we all hate, and suddenly they go to the Garden. Nobody takes the night off. They're like, oh, I want to play. I'm in Madison Square Garden. It's the Mecca. I got to do this. So, you know, having the Knicks to go deep into the playoffs, even if they don't win it, is so good for basketball. This Luka trade is great for basketball. You know, a little bit of chaos theory, honestly. If people don't know chaos theory, it's shake the snow globe, see what happens. And you know, this is great for basketball. I think this was bigger than any rule change they could talk about. Was doing this. You know, everybody's talking about. We're talking about the Super Bowl. Like, we got to talk about basketball. I would have never spoken about basketball with you. I'd say, oh, we could talk about it next week after the Super Bowl. I would never think that, you know, 5 days before the Super Bowl would be talking NBA. I'd be like, no, I don't care. Whatever. It's, you know, February. Let it be. We'll talk about it next week. But
we're trying to keep this for 30 minutes.
Like,
exactly. Me too. Trust me.
I'm pumped about this. So
I was like, let's rip it. Let's get back into it. We kind of know Chiefs, Eagles, it's a little different, sure, with Barkley, and the Eagles got a new defense, but when it comes to different, there's a lot that's shaken up, you know, when it comes to the NBA right now. And if there's anything the NBA could rig, is getting the Lakers and the Knicks to be relevant.
Right?
That's going to help your ratings. All right,
Yeah.
Scotty, let's wrap this up. We're 45 minutes in, and we'll be back next week to talk about the Super Bowl. You know, hopefully the Eagles win. But if anything, we're going to have a good podcast next week. It's either going to be a three-peat, or I'm going to be a little excited about the Eagles' second championship. All right, Scotty, thank you for joining me. And Severance, season 2, Dave is breaking that down. They are up to episode 3, I believe, right now. So you can find that as well for the Nerdy Bunch audience that likes, TV shows like that. I know me and Scotty are big fans of Severance. And outside of the NBA, I'm ready to talk about Severance. All right, Scotty. So we'll be back next week. And as always,
keep it nerdy.